Hello everyone, I'm Parker and we continue to brainstorm freely. Students at this stage of their lives have completely embarked on a new journey and entered a new phase of learning and life. At this stage there are several noticeable characteristics. First, all the students have become adults, and entering university is like stepping into the beginning of the real world. Students are now responsible for all their actions and everything they do from this point on. As parents, you don't have much influence except for providing financial support. Trying to help or educate your child at this stage is unlikely to be effective because they may not be receptive to it. After entering university, they often reach a peak of self-confidence and independence. The primary influence on them will come from their academic institution, but university management is not as strict as in secondary school because students are now adults. The kind of supervision used with minors is not suitable for university, as it would infringe on their rights and is legally prohibited. So once students enter university, numerous problems arise to the point that they are countless. There are various behaviors and events, all of which vary greatly. No one can effectively manage them during this period. The most crucial aspect during this time is the student's ability to exercise self-control. Self-control entirely depends on a student's upbringing and the education they received during middle school and high school. Whether a student can control themselves during this period is closely related to their experiences in middle and high school, as well as their parents' influence. If parents have nurtured good thought patterns and habits, then their child's self-control abilities might be stronger. Otherwise, it could be said that they are left to their own devices. University management is a comprehensive system, and most universities worldwide are quite similar with no significant differences. Some specialized institutions such as military academies have unique management styles due to their military-oriented processes. In regular universities, management methods are generally similar. Your studies as well as your life require discipline and self-awareness. Of course, every university has counselors to assist students and address some life-related issues after they enroll. However, their effectiveness can be quite limited, especially in today's society, which has advanced to a stage where students often have significant freedom and are challenging to control. So when it comes to the issues that arise during college, we can talk about two aspects: the students themselves and the universities. As for parents, there isn't much to say because they don't have much influence apart from providing financial support for their children's education. Let's first take a look at the students' performance. When students enter college at the beginning of their enrollment, they don't usually face too much academic pressure. As I've mentioned before, there is a process of knowledge continuity. So at the start of college, particularly during the freshman year, many courses are a continuation of what students have studied in high school. Let's take a simple example like calculus. The calculus taught in college is essentially the same as the derivatives students learned in high school. It's just different terminology. While there may be some specific minor differences, they are not very significant. Therefore, in terms of learning for students who have just entered college, it's relatively relaxed. However, whether they can learn well and to what extent depends entirely on the students themselves. As for the college's management, it's typically characterized by a sense of self-discipline, especially in the early stages of college. There aren't usually very strict requirements at the beginning of college. Students often attend large lectures which might have over 100 to 200 or even 300 students in a class. Attendance is not rigorously monitored and it largely depends on the student's self-discipline. Students who have recently entered adulthood and have been accepted into college may feel that their future is bright and full of hope. This can lead to a heightened desire for self-expression and a sense of self-importance. As a result, the behavior and performance of students during this period can be quite diverse, and it's challenging to generalize about them using specific statistics. Here are some general behaviors that students tend to exhibit during their university years. Increased social engagement. Many students join various clubs and social circles within their university. They are eager to be a part of these groups and find everything exciting and novel. Expanding social networks. With relatively less academic pressure than in high school, students often have more free time to make new friends. University exposes them to a diverse range of people from different regions, with varying lifestyles and dietary habits, leading to new experiences and a sense of excitement. Young adults entering university and living in a collective environment often experience a peak in their curiosity and enthusiasm for novel experiences. During this period, many things can happen, including conflicts and difficulties among students from different regions or backgrounds. In summary, they are exposed to a wide range of experiences and influences, while the academic pressure in a university tends to be relatively low. As a result, it's challenging for them to completely detach themselves from the impact of these social influences. During this time, it's unlikely for them to focus exclusively on studying. Regarding whether there are students in colleges who only focus on studying and nothing else, they do exist but are relatively rare. After entering college, one of the most prominent behaviors among modern college students is forming romantic relationships and in some cases cohabitation. It's important to note that not all universities or colleges have the same atmosphere or practices in this regard. Several decades ago, or in some economically disadvantaged regions and countries, or due to differences in religious beliefs, there were various constraints in place. However, with the development of the internet, college students have been exposed to a wide range of issues, leading to a kind of shock in terms of societal norms and values. This shock can sometimes result in shifts in perspectives and behaviors that may not necessarily be positive. The reasons for these changes can vary and are complex, and it's not always easy to pinpoint a single cause. It's important to recognize that when it comes to the introduction of external influences and concepts, often the worst aspects tend to be the ones that are initially attractive. This applies to universities as well, because students have acquired some level of knowledge and access to the internet. They can learn about the situations in other countries and regions. After gaining this awareness, they may become more uninhibited and defiant, even if they are reminded that romantic relationships can affect their studies. They may assert their freedom as they are now adults. During this period, both the college and the legal system may find it challenging to constrain certain behaviors. Of course, it's not necessary to impose strict constraints on students when they enter college. However, we should consider the ultimate outcomes. Many college students continue with their habitual thinking patterns from middle school to high school, and this pattern often revolves around irresponsibility. This is a point that you can investigate. Many students bring their habitual thinking patterns formed from middle school to high school into college, where they tend to act irresponsibly in various aspects of life. However, the most significant feature of this period is that it's not something parents can shelter them from, because they are of legal age. If they get into serious trouble during this time, they will be held accountable under the law. It's not to say that parents have no role at all during this time. If a child encounters problems in college, parents may still have to run around and find solutions. However, trying to control them is not going to work, because they are college students. Now they have their thoughts and they are adults, so they won't care about your lectures. As parents, they won't even bother to listen. To put it bluntly, you are their financial backers, and they'll take your money, but they won't take your advice seriously. They'll just say yes to everything you say, do what they want, and continue being irresponsible. Currently, all around the world, including some universities in advanced countries, the irresponsible attitude of these students is indeed a significant issue. Many students, due to their irresponsibility, end up breaking the law and facing societal consequences. This phenomenon is a case of reaping what one sows, and It's something that cannot be easily resolved by anyone. Do students during their university years realize these problems? Some do, but the percentage is small. Most students tend to do as they please and believe that their parents owe them. They may even think that their parents are to blame for having children in the first place. This mindset and way of thinking can indeed be very concerning. Of course, in some advanced countries, students have to rely on part-time jobs and work to support themselves. However, in such cases, the relationship between them and their parents can become extremely distant. To put it frankly, there might be no familial affection left. Why does this lack of familial affection or emotional connection happen? In reality, it's primarily due to habitual thinking patterns. This also involves personal ideologies, and I will address this issue separately later on. Because the state of mind influenced by personal ideologies is entirely dependent on the family, so parents don't complain when your child faces these problems. 2 words: you deserve it, because you didn't raise them well, you didn't guide them properly. Nowadays, young people can be quite despicable. They can be indifferent to their parents for the sake of money, casually disregard family ties, even trample on family bonds, and in some cases even exploit them. In the past 3 years since the emergence of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, many people have lost their jobs and faced various life difficulties during this period. Many children studying abroad suddenly found their parents unable to provide financial support anymore. What was their reaction? They never thought about becoming self-reliant. Instead, they simply extended their hands to ask their parents for money. However, since their parents couldn't provide money anymore, their behavior became quite alarming, to the point of being heartless. You can find relevant information about these cases online. This phenomenon is caused by the personal ideology of these young individuals. When did this personal ideology begin to take shape? It started gradually during their junior high school years. At that time, as parents, if you didn't provide them with proper education and guidance for a healthy personal ideology, they naturally developed a habitual thought pattern. This habitual thought pattern can be heartless, selfish, and even pitiable. They don't see you as parents. In their minds, you paying for their education is something you owe them. Whether they see you as parents or not depends solely on whether you have money. When this kind of mindset and situation emerges, it's truly a sad state of affairs. There's no point in talking about family bonds anymore. It becomes meaningless. Parents, have you ever experienced such a situation with your children? Don't delude yourselves into thinking that your children are obedient and respectful. I'll tell you, it's all a facade. Why stop giving them money and see if they still listen to you or respect you? Because it's all about money. This stark and naked family relationship revolves around money. They are essentially holding your family bonds hostage for money. If you take money out of the equation, I assure you they won't even acknowledge your existence. This is a highly prominent characteristic of young people today. The reason I'm discussing these family relationship dynamics is to highlight a crucial point. If our children don't develop a healthy thought pattern and a good personal ideology, then many of their behaviors, whether during their transition to college or afterward, may be unacceptable to you as parents. Many parents often have doubts and misconceptions, believing that their children are so wonderful. To be blunt, first of all, you can't control them. Secondly, remember this: the primary factor maintaining the relationship between you and them is money. Without money, you are nothing. If as parents you fail to recognize this, I think it's quite lamentable. Of course, I understand that all parents share similar hopes and wishes for their children. They want their children to excel in their studies, graduate from college, and secure good job opportunities. Many parents, including myself, don't expect their children to support them in their old age or be extremely filial to them in the traditional sense. We continue to work hard for our families. However, as parents, it's essential to be aware of these issues while discussing matters during the college years. It may seem unrelated to parents because they can't control these aspects. Regardless of a parent's attitude or perspective, it's often ineffective, as their children won't necessarily heed their advice. I mention this issue here to highlight the complexities of parenthood. Parents often find themselves in challenging situations, but more importantly, I want to remind you that if you find yourselves in such circumstances with your children, once you've recognized the situation, your only recourse is to think about how to educate your grandchildren and future generations. At this point it can be quite disheartening, and as parents we may feel helpless with little hope in such situations. It's best not to dwell on it, and our only wish is for our children to become independent after going to college, lead better lives and find good jobs. I want to remind you to think about this lecture, which is not only for students but also for you as parents. Don't you think that such situations are quite disheartening for the development of society and families? If you recognize this with a clear and rational understanding, even though your children may be beyond help, you can still help your grandchildren and future generations to establish a better mindset. That's the purpose of my lengthy discussion. Of course, not every student is like this. I was referring to a specific subset of behaviors. Many students maintain good relationships with their parents, but they are a minority, a very small minority. You should think about it yourselves. I want to especially remind parents whose children are studying abroad, you often have no idea what your children are doing overseas. Of course, for you, as long as your child can pass their studies and obtain a diploma, it's like completing a mission. But what's the condition? The condition is that your money must keep up. If it doesn't, try it out. Will your children even talk to you? They might not even pick up the phone. I want to remind you that when your children study abroad, you must be mentally prepared. When they go to another country, they may not adopt the good traditional values of that country, but they might adopt the bad ones. You can think about it yourselves. I don't want to dwell on this issue right now. There will be a dedicated discussion on the topic of international students later, but let me tell you now, this is a natural phenomenon, an objective law, and there's no way to avoid it. I mentioned earlier that it's difficult to import good concepts and technologies from advanced countries because it requires a lot of effort and dedication to learn. There are very few people who are willing to do that, so these things are hard to import. However, once you open the door, all the bad things can easily enter. For example, the chaotic relationships and cohabitation between male and female college students. Even having children can easily enter any country that wants to adopt them. This world is truly strange. All the good advanced ideas and traditions often struggle to find development, but all the rubbish, all the negative things are quickly accepted by young people. It must be said that this is the sadness of life, very frightening, not only for international students but also for students who go to college after high school. Once they leave their parents and families, they start learning things that you as parents may not want to know or find difficult to discuss. We are all adults, we all understand, and when it comes to these topics we may just brush them off. However, it's really important to deeply consider and investigate these issues, but it's not always possible. Why young people won't accept you and your children won't accept you either. If you talk too much, they'll cut off contact with you. What can you do? And when we say pitiable are the parents' hearts, I don't even know what's pitiable. It just seems like when parents can't be filial to their children, they feel very lost. You understand the reasons behind all of these phenomena. This is an embodiment of one of the most important issues in this lecture. I emphasized this key issue. Of course, how much you understand it is up to you. I won't explain it further here. To be honest, we are all adults, so let's stop here. Let's end this lecture here for now.
Friends who are interested in my lectures, please click to subscribe and click on the little bell. At the same time, the links to the Big Tree Thinking Model Theory ebook and the Big Tree Thinking Model and Junior High School Mathematics lectures are here below. Friends can click on the link to watch related free lectures. Thank you all.